Hi and welcome back to Behind the Screens. I'm Kate Ficai. This is part 2 of our chat with Dr. Betty Sargeant and Justin Dwyer, the duo behind PluginHUMAN. Today we're going to hear more about the philosophy and concepts behind their digital works, I Miss Your Touch, Dream 2.2 and Breathe. I hope you enjoy it. So Betty and Justin, welcome back. It's so good to talk to you again, and I'm super excited to be breaking down some of the projects in a little more detail that you've been working on over the past, year or two. First of all, I just wanted to find out a little bit about what the philosophy is that drives you both to create interactive participatory works.
I think we are kind of driven by this idea that we make work for people and we make artwork that's accessible to the broadest number of people. And in doing this, we're not trying to dumb anything down, but we try to distill complex ideas into the simplest way we can communicate something that's quite complex, so that ideally it can be understood by a child. And that's where a lot of the hard work really comes in, is figuring out, how do we make this simple? How do we make the interaction simple? How do we make it seamless between the person and the engagement? And that's going to be a physical engagement, because generally it involves some kind of hardware-software interaction, but so that they don't even know it's a hardware-software interaction, that they're just in an environment, an aesthetic environment, and are feeling something. Because I think our job ultimately is to make people feel something different and to shift them from one position to another. And what those positions are will depend on the person. But I don't want to just make art for people who have a PhD in fine art, where people can't understand what on earth you're talking about or why on earth you would deal with that. I feel kind of it's a political thing in a way. I feel that really driven to invite the broadest number of people that don't have no access to art generally in their lives, into an unusual, unique, creative environment that's asking something of you.
I think it's pretty much exactly the same, but maybe in different words. I really like making abstract works where there's, you can't sit there and describe it. It's a thing, and hopefully it makes you feel something and you walk away changed. For me, that's the greatest thing. If I walk in and see some art, and whether it's something that I can express or whether it's just a feeling, if I walk away and I go, all right, I'm different now, that's the main goal for me, because that's what I like to do when I go and see something. And in terms of how we think about things and how you work towards making something which does do that, it takes a lot of work, because you can't come up with something in 2 minutes. You can come up with something that looks really good, but whether it has an effect on people, generally it's got to do with how much work and thought you put into it.
It's really interesting to hear you talk about how you're interested in creating change in the audience and people that are going through these experiences that you've created. And obviously 2020 has been a massive period of change with the COVID pandemic. So can you tell us a little bit about your work that was a rapid response in March, called I Miss Your Touch?
I Miss Your Touch came about because we saw the need to do a work of art that lots of people could have access to. And because we generally make tech work, it had to be something that involved tech that people already had. It wasn't a matter of using some great fancy piece of gear that we had in the lab that we could do. It was a matter of going, what has everyone got? And the answer to that was a webcam. And so we basically started from there and then worked towards thinking about what we needed to do for people and how the art would work in that way. And what we wanted to do was bring people together using webcams and putting them in a space where they could actually connect with each other.
So we created very quickly created an artwork where people who are in two separate locations use their laptop and their internet, and we stream their video and place them into a shared virtual environment, and so they appear together. And this is an environment where instead of being in little boxes like you appear on Zoom, you appear in the one screen, a shared screen. And so you can virtually hug each other and shake hands and dance together. And your physicality overlaps like the way it is with Justin and I, as opposed to being in a separate box where you don't know where you're placed on the screen and can't kind of relate to the person next to you. This aimed to give people physical and social engagement, a deeper engagement over a time when we were all very isolated due to COVID.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because you created this in March before Melbourne had even gone into our first lockdown. So what inspired you to make this so quickly?
We could see what was happening in terms of the pandemic, and saw that we were going to be very isolated, we thought, for a very long time, and we still think we've got a long way to go. And we could see that we could do something to help. And so it was one of the rare times where we didn't have our partners all in line. We didn't have, funding and a commissioning body and somewhere to exhibit it. We just felt compelled to help people. So in 40 minutes, we designed the first prototype. And then it was after that all hell broke loose, and it was really, really hard. And we released it. Every week people could book in for a time and dance together with a friend in this shared virtual environment. It was free. And what was delightful for us is that we had the artworks called I Miss Your Touch, because it was about just missing human touch, not being able to hug people, not being able to shake their hands. But we didn't expect that we would provide the feeling of virtual touch for people. And that's what we actually did. And it was only after it first started running that we realized that people were saying to us, oh, it felt like they were actually there. It felt like I was holding my friend. And these were like teenagers, boyfriend, girlfriend, who were separated because they were isolating in different places. And, just loved ones who just aren't together. People live alone and they're just lonely. And so it was astonishingly beautiful and moving for us that all this hard work did lead to sort of a democratization of digital equipment in a way, because we understand that not everybody has a laptop, not everybody has access to the internet. We're aware of that, but a lot of people do, a lot more people than have, say, specialist VR equipment or something, for example, which is one of the other ways you may be able to experience virtual touch, is through some very specialist kind of hardware and software that needs to be set up by almost semi-experts. We wanted something where you didn't download anything, you don't log in, you don't have to remember a password. There's none of that. We just wanted to give free, simple, easy access to something that would make people feel like they were together with somebody else, having a meaningful and unique experience.
It was really like the first thought was about dancing. The first thought was, hey, we can't, we can't go dancing. We can't, go to a club or anything. Or we can't go to a pub or see a band. Okay, let's make something where people can dance together. And so that was the original prototype that we put together and went, okay, this is great. But like Betty said, once people started using it in their own way, it became such a thing of, cuddling virtually and saying hi, and it just became a whole nother thing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so how did people respond? Did you get a larger response from international audiences initially? And how did you get it out to you? How did you find your audience?
We just sort of sent invitations out initially to sort of a small kind of ripple around us, through a bit of social media. And then after a while, we had a lot of people interested, and booking in for times. And then after a while, we had partners come on board. So we ran it along with Art Play, which is in City of Melbourne, over school holiday times for kids who are isolating. So we made a unique version for kids called You and Me. And we're about to do a version for the Ballarat Music and Art Festival that's coming up. And there's a festival in India that's interested. And so after running it ourselves, it just kind of rippled out fairly organically. And then, partners came on board, and we've begun to get commissioned to do it for specific events.
So let's talk a little bit about your project Dream 2.2. Can you tell us a little bit about that work?
Well, it involved 2 sleeping teenagers in a 6 by 12 metre room with 4 metre hanging acrylic drops, which formed a brain forest, so people could walk through the brain forest whilst looking at the 2 people who were lying down. And we did this in a couple of different ways. One was live performances, and this was the 2 teenagers were controlling the room with their brainwaves. Controlling
the audio and the visuals.
Yeah. And we were actually almost DJing with their brainwaves in real time. So we could switch between which teenager's brain was running the room, or there was a mix, and we could actually just pull in all of the brainwaves. And one of the great things about software that we use is that it's always real time. And so you can actually just adjust on the fly. So it was really quite amazing and quite fun. People were very fascinated. Some people actually thought that these sleeping teenagers were dolls because they were sleeping, and they kind of didn't click that we would use real people in our
It was also because we were in the National Taiwan Museum of Fine Art, and they were less familiar with seeing Westerners, and particularly with seeing them, teenagers sleeping, and they assumed they were wax dummies, and they could walk right up to the teenagers. They could walk in and around us and watch us programming, and so they would kind of peer like right in to their face, and then go, "Whoa!"
Oh my God, they're real.
Yeah,
they're breathing.
It was so funny.
Wow. And so you ran it through the night, I'm assuming, if they actually were really asleep.
No, they were professional.
Well, yeah, we ran it. We did run it at night. We ran it during the day. We had lots of different performance times.
Okay.
Ideally, our aim was to run it from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and to have people forego their own sleep in order to watch the sleep of others. And that was kind of something that philosophically we were interested to see how far we could push audiences out of their comfort zone and encourage them to stop watching other people do things in their lives and start to engage themselves. So the next stage of the exhibition was after the opening, which was over Chinese New Year, where we did these performances. It was then open as an interactive exhibition, so that we invited the audience to take that step further and to stop observing others and to put the headset on themselves, control the exhibition themselves, use their own brainwaves, like step into the driver's seat, be alive, be engaged, and think about the control that you actually have over your own mind and the control you have over your own brainwaves. They're not a separate thing to you. You can, to a large extent, control what's going on there.
It was also about understanding a way of using art to really get people to be immersed in something, because you can just show them on a screen, what their brainwaves are doing, and they'll look at it and go, oh yeah. But when the whole room comes alive and you can actually change the colour of the room by relaxing and make the room kind of explode if you excite your mind, then it's got a much bigger impact on people and their understanding what's actually going on. And we had a lot of people go through that exhibition.
We had like 65,000 people through that.
Oh, wow. That's enormous.
So
And
that was also a design consideration of how do you get thousands of people to use your thing without it, falling apart.
For a long period of time.
And so did you give the participants a very simple introduction to what they needed to do? Did you just basically put it on and say, lie down and play around with your thoughts?
A part of this exhibition is they wanted the gallery to be involved. We wanted something that wasn't as complicated as VR, but something that's more involved than just watching, say, an interactive video or engaging in an interactive video. Basically, all they have to do is put on a headset. They just slide it, put it on, bam, it works. It takes like a second to connect. So you don't really have to tell them anything. They just put on the headset. They can sit up, they can lie down, they can kind of do what they want. But the gallery assistant was really there, just standing there, and if the person looked like they needed, it's a different culture as well, you have to keep that in mind. And if it looked like they wanted a kind of a trigger, they would just say, try breathing slowly. And then what would happen, all you need to do is tell people that. Try taking deep breaths would be how we would say it. And people go, and all of the visuals just go like this. They turn blue and they just all sync. And they go, oh my God. And then they all go, the visuals go bananas. And then they go, oh my God. And then it goes bananas again. And so then they suddenly go, I get it. So you just need to give them, we just figured out a very, very simple trigger because that's what the institution wanted. They wanted this kind of little engagement to happen.
Right.
Between the gallery assistants, there's a whole community embedded thing in this National Gallery where they've got these fantastic volunteers, and it's, So, all we said is take a deep, slow breath. Try take a deep, slow breath.
Amazing.
And then that kind of started this whole thing of, oh, is that me? Oh my God, is it, oh, right, can I control that? Oh, let me see if I can get green. And then people would, and it's not about thinking green, it's about figuring out what brain function you need to work to trigger those colours. And some people totally cracked the coding. They totally cracked the whole system that we'd set up, the if this, then that. So if you activate this brain function here by doing this kind of thought, then it will create this occurrence visually, and it will trigger these sounds.
I'm sort of astounded that, you said in our last episode that you started off as musicians, and every project is really quickly kind of developed and delivered. And the depth of knowledge and understanding of quite complex scientific principles, you seem to master like really quickly. So
we don't master, but we're really curious. And
you are, yeah.
But once we kind of find out pretty much how it functions, we're like, all right, got it, move on. So we're not into mastering brain-computer interfaces, but we certainly know a heck of a lot more about them than we did before.
Than you did before. And bioplastics and carbon sequestering and all these other things. It's phenomenal. Look, just quickly before we get on to some of your environmental works, I'm just interested to know, I guess, just a little bit, and we did talk about it in the previous episode, but you did collaborate with youth for Dream 2.2, and if you can just share a little bit about what drove that decision, why were teenagers your choice?
That was a philosophical decision on looking at what people are doing with their time, and because, as Betty spoke about before, it's kind of a bit of a subject that's not spoken about, teenagers' dreams, and we knew that they could actually also really fall asleep and really take it on. And we wanted to involve not just, people of our own age, but, kind of straddle the ages a bit and take it somewhere that we hadn't been before.
Fascinating. Okay.
Yeah, I think with that exhibition, the institution was really interested in engaging more with teenagers. And so that was a part of their target market. And we work pretty closely with institutions about, what it is they want from the exhibition. And we love working with teens as well. We love working with different aged people, and we often do that, and different cultures, different people to us. I find it fascinating. It teaches me new things. So I was really into that. And there's this kind of taboo between adults and the teenage mind, where there's a kind of taboo to do with adults and the teenage mind, where we feel like we can't really have access to it. It's a private space. It's an unknown space. They're unwilling to share. There's all these feelings.
It's a volatile space.
It's a volatile space. Do we belong there? Is this okay? And when we were talking to some Australian institutions about this artwork, and we've never shown this in Australia, it's only ever been shown in Asia, then there was a reticence. They were like, have we got this right, Betty? You're going to have 2 sleeping teenagers and you're going to use their brainwaves to control the artwork. And I'm like, yeah.
Bum, bum, bum.
And they're going to be asleep.
Yeah.
And they're going, oh. And there was real feeling that, that is taboo.
Radical, yeah.
Whereas in Asia, like Taiwan, they were just like, oh, that is taboo. Let's go there. Like, we need to find out more. We need to connect with this. And they were so willing to go there. And the teenagers flocked to this exhibition. It became this kind of Instagram hotspot,
huge Instagram,
where lovers would come, boyfriend, girlfriend, or they weren't necessarily lovers, but they were loved, the tenderness between them, and one person would control it and the other would walk in the other person's, the aesthetic environment that they'd created from this very personal space in their brain. And they were really, you could see they were moved by having that connection with this other young person that they loved. You could see adults there with their teenagers operating it, walking in it, and having this completely different, bizarre relationship to their teenager, their teenage child. And so it kind of just opened up this. We did lots of artist talks, and it opened up this new avenue of connection between adults and teenagers, and to break down this taboo and just go, look, we're all just humans. We're all just muddling through this. We don't have any secret answers as adults. We're just making it up as we go along. And so are they. And so we may as well just do it together.
It's not just teenagers either. I love working with young kids. I love to see young kids using our exhibitions, because they just do things you cannot think of in a million years.
Yeah.
I miss the other version of I Miss Your Touch, which was called You and Me. We had kids doing things which, they were bouncing across the screen, they were jumping off bunk beds and doing sliding towards the camera and doing all kinds of things which I wasn't thinking about when I was programming. And so it's great, I love seeing people
takes on a life of its own in a way, which is a beautiful thing. So a lot of your works have a very personal philosophy behind it. Can you talk us a little bit about your series of environmental works like Breathe? Just describe a little bit about the works and how they're connected to the environment.
We're quite moved by taking action around climate change, and we're surprised that governments and huge institutions aren't taking the lead in the way that we see is necessary. And we're shocked that it's left up to artists to address the very complex issue of climate change. But it kind of feels like not just artists, it's left up to kids. Kids were taken to the streets last year, not going to school, going, this is so important to us, this is our future. We want to forgo our education so that we can march against what is happening here, and to say, we have to act, and we have to act now. And we feel that. And we're as surprised as anybody that we're operating at some cutting edge of carbon capture and storage, because we were thinking it was someone else's job. But it's important to us to act on what we believe. And so it's front and centre. We have to change. Everybody has to change. Everybody has to be operating carbon negative. And so the first step is at least get to carbon neutral. So was really behind that project.
We got to a point when we kind of stopped it, I guess a year and a half ago, or a little bit more, where we sat down and said, okay, what are we thinking of next? And we just kind of looked at each other and went, the only thing that's foremost in our minds is environmental concerns now. And there are people there's a lot of scientists working on things, there's a lot of people doing good work, and there needs to be a lot of huge projects which really take on masses of these things. But it can't be left up to the person day to day and placing the blame on them. So we all need to have a change in mindset as well as the very large projects. But really, for us, it was about creating empathy, creating works which actually had a mind shift. We can't change the way that people with vested interests behave. What we can do is try and create more empathy within people in general, and then hopefully those people will have worked towards electing people who will then actually create more change. So, we're doing what we can.
Breathe is an LED light installation that's made up of 8 what we call trees. And what these trees are is 3-metre high tubular light sculptures. And in the centre of it, there's an aluminium pole that's surrounded by LED lights. And why it's aluminium is that LEDs get hot. And these are hollow, square tubes of aluminium. Aluminium is a heat sink, so it absorbs the heat and the heat goes up through the top. And this is something we designed ourselves. No one had done that before, but it's super successful in keeping the LEDs cold. So that's great from a design perspective, and it's also really light. And then around this internal LED lights is recycled acrylic that's been printed on, and there are these tubes, so these that go around it, and they've been printed on with images of the microscopic qualities of different environments. And so we take samples from the environment, put it under microscope, take photographs of it, and then print it large scale, like 3 meters high. And so we're really illuminating the qualities of that environment that you can't see. So we're illuminating the data, like the temperature and the different sort of climatic parts of the environment, and also the microscopic parts of the environment.
So generally we'll go somewhere. Betty was in the Amazon last year and Panama. We've made recordings in Australia and in Taiwan and India. And so we'll get a whole stream of data from the environmental system that we've built, which is taking in the wind, temperature, etc. And we'll also do audio recordings. And then it'll come down to looking at that stream of data and seeing which is the most useful, which has got a good life to it, and which one seems appropriate to whatever we're trying to do artistically on that tree or across the whole trees. And then it's a matter of creating visuals and audio which really express what we're trying to show, and then linking that data to control those visuals. So it's actually like the wind speed or temperature might be controlling the size of something within the visual context, and then another stream of data might be controlling the colour. Place that across all of the trees or on separate trees. We started to look at ways we could create data, or not create data, to record data, and then use that data to run our installations, rather it being data from people and moving and so on, to actually make the environment and front and centre. So it was running it and people were observing and hopefully feeling some more connection, rather than it being something that they were running. It was actually the environment was running it.
And the way that it's running it is that we got like this mini computer in a way called an Arduino. And what this is just really a motherboard, the brain sort of a computer really. And it's about this big, about that high and this kind of wide and long. So it's a pretty small little unit. And we got all these sensors and attached them to the Arduino. So in a way, kind of built our own kind of hardware computer system that we call our environmental sensing kit.
EnviroSense TM.
And what this does is it measures things like the moisture in soil, the wind direction, the air temperature, barometric readings, humidity, light.
Wind direction.
Different things that are occurring in the environment, it tracks changes in that. So it will give you a reading on what it is, like the temperature, and then it will track when it's changed and by what increments. And so we can take this as a real-time feed, like a live feed from the environment, or we can record this data. And then this data, which is essentially just a bunch of numbers, if you just imagine like an Excel spreadsheet that's got like a column saying temperature, and then it's got rows saying dates and times, and then it's just got numbers. And then the next column is something else with numbers. And it sort of is just a series of something like that can be seen in an Excel spreadsheet, but it's not really envisaged like that for us. The numbers are just sent into the computer, and then we tell the computer what to do with that. And we say, okay, so when the temperature, for example, goes up, it gets hotter, turn everything red. We don't do this, but say, for example, when the temperature goes cold, everything goes blue. And by everything, what I mean in Breathe is an LED light installation. So we've got what's called addressable RGBW LEDs. So that's red, green, blue, and white. LEDs that are programmable. So there's lights where we can put in information and tell the lights what to do. So we say dim, go bright, and there's thousands of these lights, and they're all individually addressable. So we can go this tiny little light down here, switch that on and make it red. The one next to it, have it half and make it blue. So we can completely change in tiny little increments how this light environment is affected by the natural environment. And so we control that light environment.
So you've got these beautiful vibrant trees that are lit up through the LEDs and have the printed data, etc., from those environments. So how do people experience Breathe? Do they walk through the trees at night? What do they hear?
Yeah, they can walk in and amongst the sculptures. They can oftentimes lie down. Teenagers often lie down, and amongst them, like they're lying down on the floor of a forest, and look at them. We've exhibited them outside in the wild, like in sort of semi-wilderness areas, as well as indoors. And they can, just be amongst them. And there's a soundscape, as Justin said. We record audio, and some of this is underwater, some of it's with contact mics where we get right inside trees and inside soil and record what's happening in there. And so we've made a soundscape that goes with it as well. So it's
it goes around the world, that one.
Yeah. So in some ways it's what you might call an immersive light sculpture.
Beautiful. And so how do audiences respond? So what were you hoping that they might experience through Breathe, and how have they responded?
Well, once again, we're just looking to create empathy. So we're looking to create something that will give people a feeling and experience it, and can actually hopefully make them stand back and think about the environment and think about what this experience is. And when they have the idea and they have some more idea of where the sounds are coming from and the philosophy behind that, it becomes more than some pretty lights. It becomes a place to be. It actually, this piece is really quite meditative. And like Betty was saying, we have had quite a few people who come to it and then just lie down and stay there for quite a while. And
large groups of friends just sort of lying down.
And that makes me really happy. That when I see people walk into a work and actually approach it from a different direction and go, oh, this makes me feel like lying down. Let's all lie down. That's achievement for me in terms of
Absolutely.
It's, you know, I also like when people stand there and rub their beard and go, yeah, oh, that seems
go and poke everything.
That's great too, but I like it when people actually just sort of, it does something that makes them really relax or makes them have some kind of an effect which is different from what they thought when they walked in.
It seems like it connects back to what you're saying about shifting the way people are sort of seeing something or experiencing something as well. So I know, Betty, we've spoken about you're interested in people sort of doing that deep listening to the environment as well.
Yeah, I think it's really important that people learn how to step back right now, because humans are very good at impact. We know that. And I don't feel like it's our job as artists right now to give humans another impactful experience where they walk into a gallery and wave their arms around and they go, look, that's me. I've changed the artwork. And we've done that work ourselves. We've allowed people's brainwaves to control, this environment, an audio-visual environment. But there was a shift after that for us where we just went, we have to move away from humans and we have to help humans move away from themselves and stop placing ourselves front and center and start placing the environment front and center, step back, allow the environment to have more control over us and have more impact on us. So, yeah, like Justin was saying, we want the environment to take control, to be the interacting factor, and for humans to learn that that's okay. It's more than okay. That's what we need to be doing. We need to be building these deep symbiotic connections between ourselves and the natural environment that surrounds us if we want to survive.
And I can hear a whole lot of Indigenous cultures right now going, uh-huh.
We've been telling you this for eons.
Yeah, we're not the first people to say this. We absolutely not.
Going, if you guys need coloured lights to realise this, then all right.
Yeah.
No, it's super interesting, and I can't wait to hear or to experience your next project. We have to wind it up now. There's a million questions I would love to ask you, but thank you so much for sharing all your time with us, and all the best with your projects for 2020.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
See ya.
Cheers.